Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is John. I'm a filmmaker slash creator and your host for Make Limited Podcast, where we talk about how to change our circumstances when life happens. In other words, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Today, we're talking about opting the norm in our society. Welcome everyone to Make Limited Podcast. This is your host John. Welcome once again to Make Limited Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here today. I'm excited to talk to you about an important topic that I believe is going to give you direction and guidance in your life. Today we're talking about a simple concept of opting the norm in our society. And pretty much, just to give a little definition on opting, it's to make a choice from a range of possibilities. So when we're talking about opting, we're talking about the variety of choices that we have when it comes to the norm. And one of the hugest things that I believe influences the norm in today's world is, you got it, social media. Right now, social media is the powerhouse. It's where people connect, communicate, do collaborations, so on and so forth. Right? We have businesses going through social media. We have influencers going to social media, and so much more. Every day there's something happening, something new, and the more we see it, the more we are able to define what normal is. And the reason why I mention, which was one of the most important things that we're going to talk about today, and that is seeing. Okay? We're going to talk about seeing, because the more you see something in your life, the more natural it becomes. That's why when we talk about opting, we're talking about the various options we have to really define what norm is for us. Okay? And the reason why I say this is because, and this is going to be one of my main points today's conversation, and it's going to be this: don't fall into the norm. Right? Don't be or don't follow the huge crowd that is going into a certain direction. But be your own self. Okay? And we're going to talk more about that. We're going to get a little deeper into that. So let's go with what we're talking about, the seeing. Okay? So one of the things that I thought about in my life as I was meditating and thinking about, right now that we are in a certain holiday per se, which is coming up on the 31st, and it's Halloween. I've thought about this because for several years, they would have scary movies. They would have, Halloween, the history of how it started. Not only that, but now we have made it into something where we just go around and get candy from houses. And it's a whole big area, right, of how Halloween came to be to what it is now. But we're not going to talk about the history of it. But what I want to talk about is the scariness that Halloween is supposed to bring, right? You dress however you want. The more adult you are, the more freedom you have to show more, or the younger you are, the more you can explore with characters, and so on and so forth. There's really no line of limitation of what you can be or pretend to be on Halloween. So my point to this is, Halloween for me has been tied with a bunch of scary movies, with all this stuff that is happening, scary monsters. For me, when I was younger, growing up, this was what I thought Halloween was. So one of the things that I thought about as I was meditating was, you know, we are afraid of scary movies. We're afraid of teeth. We're afraid of ghostly looking things or witchly looking things. You know, dark eyes, eyes that are red, teeth that are so sharp. We're so afraid of those things because, number one, we don't see it as often, right? We don't see it 24/7. It's not around us 24/7. So it's fine. It's okay. It's not something that you're supposed to do, right? According to norm. Some people, that's pretty much all they live for. But my point is this: you don't see it constantly every single day, so you're not accustomed to it. Say, for example, your family. You are accustomed to seeing other humans, thus you're not afraid, right? So you're accustomed to what humans look like. You're not accustomed to, however, having a ghost, right, disappearing, coming in different forms. Not only that, but you're not accustomed seeing a vampire. You're not accustomed seeing, like, Frankenstein, right, in different forms that movie puts it into. You're not accustomed to those things, so it becomes something fearful. Say, for example, aliens. We don't know what they can do or how powerful they can be, so it's interesting but mostly fearful because we've seen lots of movies, right? But it's not something that we see constantly, so we're not aware of it, and it's not the norm. Versus dogs, for example. Dogs have canines, just like monkeys, just like lions, but yet we have them as pets. Yet we have them in our homes. Yet we take care of them like they're our own children. And there's one funny quote that I've heard before, or a saying, that dogs are the new kids and plants are the new pets. And I found that funny because in some way it's kind of true. But it's not the norm to see monsters every day, because if you would see monsters, then it would not be as scary, or it would not be scary for you to see scary movies. Why? Because it's your norm. You see it constantly, everywhere. Why are people scared of the dark? Because they don't see the dark constantly. They don't see the dark every day in their life. They always see the light. So when darkness comes, when something, like say for example, a storm, it gets scary. Why? Because we stop seeing the light and we start seeing things that we've never seen before. So it becomes scary. It becomes something out of the norm. And so we are afraid, and fear kicks in, and our instincts automatically start working to evacuation or cover, right? So those are the things that are not norm versus things that are norm. Seeing the sun, seeing clouds, seeing the stars, right? Being in your house, turning on the lights so that it can be nice and illuminating. Things that we're used to. So when you look at so many things around your world, you see it as a norm. Why? Because it's seen over and over again. And what surprises me with this is that when you are not part of the norm, people react very indifferent. Say, for example, one of the things that people are acting different with me is that I don't drink. I don't drink alcohol, to be precise. So when I go and I talk to someone who does, or a group of people who do, because that's all they've known and see around their lives since probably high school or so, they find it really weird, for a simple word, that I don't do any of that. And and they find it funny, they find it curious, and for some reason they try to just get you to start drinking, to be like them, right? And this is not all of the people, right? This is some, not all. And so there's so many things that we've gone, not just with drinking. There's so many things. It's not just drinking. It can be other things that through peer pressure, one decides to apply that to one's life. So when I get these things and people start talking about the norm and how it's normal for them to do this, but it's weird that it's not normal for me. And for some sense, people try to get you to do the norm, right? And you start becoming weird, which is, in psychology, is one of the techniques that is used. And we have seen it before. Even everyone has seen it before. It literally just happened with the whole COVID, with the vaccine, right? You peer pressure the majority to you tell the majority to peer pressure the minorities. Thus, they become insecure, and among other things, and decide to go ahead and do it. Now, I'm not saying anything with the vaccine. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's another topic to talk about. But what I'm saying is the technique of the majority versus the minority. It's a technique that happens everywhere. Everywhere. And one of the experiments that I read in an article was how, if I believe I'm saying this correctly, I'm probably not saying this correctly, but it's how they were able to peer pressure from a study group for everyone knew what was happening except that one person or a couple of people. And they would tell the crowd that knew what to do, or they had instructed the crowd to do, to when they would get someone to, let's say, for example, I think I'm mixing two things up, but I know it would be kind of, well, this is actually two exercises, but I'm just going to tell one, very simple because it's not clear, so I'm just going to go over. So they would tell this group, okay, a certain group, that was the majority, to choose a decision that was not usually chosen. And the few, they didn't tell anything. They just said, go in there and do this, and they're going to tell you to do something. With the decision, because of the majority going to the, let's say, for example, left to right, went to right, the minority that were left would go to right. There would be probably one or two that would go to the left. So that is the technique of the majority. When you have more people doing something, people are going to automatically follow. And you see this on a daily basis, whether it be in commercials, in the media, in selling cars, and buying products. You see it everywhere. The more people buy it, the more celebrity talks about it that has millions of followers, the more people are going to be prone to believe what they say. It's a simple strategy. Remember, today we're talking about opting the norm, right? That's what we're talking about today. And it's very important because you're actually seeing what I'm talking about today more than often every day in your life or in our society. But what are we doing? Are we following the norm? Are we actually doing things because we want to do them? Or are we doing things because others are doing it, or the majority is doing it? It's a very simple thing. We think that it's just a kid or a high school thing that happens, but it's not. It's a human nature thing that happens. We do a quick analysis of what is better. Sometimes we just choose not to analyze what's in front of us, and we just choose what more people go for. That's what ratings are for. That's why ratings exist. If it has 5 stars, you're more likely to buy it. If it has 2.5 stars, you're least likely to buy it. Right? And then if you look further into these things, you can see that some of this actually is played where there's corruption and there's other stuff. Again, this is a different topic. Today we're talking about opting the norm in our society. You have a decision to make. You have a choice to make. Will you become what others are becoming? Or will you choose to be who you are? And sometimes we don't know who we are. Sometimes we are lost in a place where we're trying to let others define, aka the media, define who we are. And I've been there before. I've been there. And it's crazy that the new generation, one of the things that I see interesting is that the new generation is growing up with Google being, per se, the father of kids. Why? Because now kids are not going, or the new generation is not going to their parents to find out, hey, how many galaxies are there? Or, hey, what is the moon? How far is the moon? Right? Now we have Google to go to. We have many other options to do as well. But mostly, Google is one of the things that is made known to have the answers to pretty much everything. Somebody has written an article. Somebody has talked about it. There's thousands of videos and articles that you can go to. So the question here is, what are you opting in the norm? What decisions are you making? Because there's so many. And it's something that you want to do. There's so many possibilities. So how do you know you're making the right decision? And this is one of the things that I believe I've seen over and over again, but I want to give you a resolution to that. And this is what I mean. I've seen people over and over again do things because they're pressured, because they're at a point of desperation, again, because of the ratings, and they decide to do a certain decision or choice based on the majority, based on what other people are doing. So today I come to give a resolution of how do you know the options or things to do. Okay? It's very important. It's very, very important. Emotions are there for a tool of guidance. A tool of guidance. And the other thing that is there for guidance is research. Number 3 that is here for guidance is mentors. Okay? Number 4, which is one of the most critical one, and I would say even, what's the word? I would say it's contradicting, because it deals with trust. Trust no one. And I know that sounds crazy, but this is the main reason why I say this. Because it's contradicting. The way I see it is trust the process. Trust the people are going to do what they're going to do according to what you know from them. But, or should I say, trust the human, human nature, because you know that's exactly what's going to happen according to the action that gives you a result. But most of all, what I want you to do in this place is, when you're looking into the places that you want to trust, do not trust the human, but trust the human nature. Okay? The reason why I say this is because the human will fail you. The human will fail you. Human nature is going to do what it does. Okay? It's going to do what it does. The rain comes, and you know when the clouds are there and it's getting dark, you know, you can smell the rain. You know rain is coming. When the sun is out, you know that it's going to be a sunny day. Right? When the trees are nice and green, you know that there is summer, spring. Right? When the trees are falling, you know that it's fall. Human nature is the same. When something bothers someone, for example, anger, you know that you're going to get an angry person. When something makes someone as a human happy, you know that you're going to get happiness, right? And so on and so forth. So trust the human nature, not the human. And best of all that I can say is guard your heart. Because that's the one thing that you want to keep guarded from anything. Okay, from anyone, anything, guard your heart. Because there's so many people that are conscious and unconsciously willing to use and break your heart and and do the worst thing to you without remorse. That's why it's very important to guard your heart, because some people do it unintentionally. They don't know what they're doing because they're going on their intuition, they're going on their emotions, they're going on, you know, the actions and consequences that of a situation. This is why I say that we're opting the norm. There are many choices and opportunities for you in this world. But do not follow the crowd that is heading a direction. Why? Because you're not the crowd. You are you. And the most important thing here is for you to be okay and good with yourself. It's very important. Very important for you to be okay and good with yourself. It's very important for you to love yourself, not indulge in yourself and just be lover of yourself. But the reason why I say love yourself is so that you can love others as you do to yourself. It's very important that is something pure and clear. So wherever you are at in this moment, we're talking about opting the norm in our society. You have a choice from many different things that are now in our social media world. Many people, even smart people, who have lied, even politic people that have lied, even trusted people that have lied. You have to believe and trust the human nature. Human nature is going to do what it does according to its reaction to the situation. And you got to guard your heart. It's one of the most important things to do. So when you're opting and you're making a decision, trust the human nature and trust and guard your heart. Okay? Because that is one of the most powerful tools that are going to help you, guide you to finding who you are. Because, again, when you come to the point of asking yourself, do I like this because everyone likes it, or do I like it because I like it? Those are the things to ask questions about. To really know yourself. It's very, very important. One of the things that I choose in my life above else is to do good. And I know you heard so many times in this podcast that I believe this one thing, that we have both good and evil in our lives. Whatever you choose to use more is technically what will be showing in your life. If you choose to use good, anything that deals with good, you're going to be showing good stuff. But if you choose to show bad, then you're going to show bad stuff. And this is how you know between good and bad. Okay? Because I know that's a lot of troubling things that one can go, and a lot of contradiction that can go into this topic. But what I'm going to give you is a perspective that you can see and apply to your life if you want. I cannot force you to do something. I can only show you. You decide for yourself. This is the way that my perspective sees, in my opinion. If something is leading you to destruction, run the opposite direction of good. If something is bringing life to you and to others, keep going. Now, the contradicting part of this is that sometimes when we see bad, sometimes it can be good. And when we see good, sometimes it can be bad. It's what we like to call in writing, now I hope I don't butcher this, but I believe I am, and it's the anti-antagonist. Okay, and I think I did, but if I have it correctly, this is the bad guy who we see as bad, but does good. Now, one of these big pictures, if you follow up with Marvel and the comics, according to the movie that has been shown so far, of the character, the development of the character is Venom, right? An anti-antagonist. Why is that? Because he's doing good, he's taking only the bad and not eating the good, right? Eating bad people and then not eating good people, right? But he has trouble. Why? Because he wants to just eat what his nature does. Now, I'm going to look this up because I want to make sure that I am saying this correctly. But let me see here. Okay, we have... Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm correct, the antagonist. So we see this, right? And we know that the person is bad, but then they do something good, right? And we're like, wow, how is that, right? And so this is where I'm talking about where I mention good can be bad, bad can be good, right? Sometimes something happens in our lives and we're like, oh my goodness. But then we realize as we start or we keep living our lives that it was something that was actually good, So how to measure these things is very, in a sense, can be compromising and difficult to understand and to make a decision of it. But the best way, in my opinion, that I see these things in my own life is if it's destroying, go the other direction. But if it's giving life, then go. Go for it. It's a beautiful thing when you choose to do good. It's a beautiful thing. And one of the biggest things that I see in everyday life is no matter how bad things get, if they get super worse than you ever seen in your life, good will always overcome. No matter what, good will overcome. So when you're thinking today about the norm, and you're trying to get yourself out of the norm, but you somehow end up falling into a norm, understand this one thing. That if you didn't decide to do something, not because you were convinced, not because majority were following the path, but because you truly examined yourself and you truly looked in your heart and you saw that it was not destroying your life or those of others, then continue. But if you've seen that it is destroying, then stop. Examine your life. Examine your heart. Examine the people that are around you. Because sometimes it can be a virus that can be in the system and you don't know it. We've seen it again and again in history. Whether it was a person who was instigating ideas, or it was an ally who was trying to go behind someone's back. But we've heard it. Betrayals, backstabs, so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure you can name more. But we've seen it. I say, do good. Choose to follow a path that is good. Not a path that is destructive. Because that leads nowhere. It just leads to an unsatisfying, not that it is satisfying, but death. It can be physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. And I've seen it. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in the lives of others, where just one person said something or did something that ruined someone's life, that made them go a different direction. I've seen it. I'm even at fault of doing that. But the best thing that we can do, is get up and move forward. Okay? Just get up and move forward. Yes, and go and try to make peace with the things that you've done, or so on and so forth. But the best thing that you can do for yourself is do good. Do good in your life, do good in others. Forgive those who have done stuff to you, and forget. I know it's hard. And it's not easy. It's nothing is easy in this world, I can tell you that much. Nothing. Doesn't matter what we try to do, there is a process to everything. So in today's world, are you following the norm? Are you seeing yourself that there is no option? There's no choice. Today I have come to tell you that you can opt the norm. There are many choices that you can do. My thing here is for you to choose good. Do good. If anything that you learn from Make Limited Podcast is to do good in your life. Wherever you are at, do good. Love is the strongest and most powerful thing that you can have in your life. I like one of the things that I heard biblically, and this is something, even if you don't believe it, this is something that I've applied to myself as a principle, is be like a dove. Be peaceful like a dove, but be as sharp as a snake. One of the most enlightening things that I've ever heard, because you can be peaceful, right? You can be kind, you can be nice, you can be happy, but be ready and quick like a snake. Okay? But above all, peaceful and loving. Because remember, you have good and evil inside of you, but you decide what you want to use. Do you want to be more evil, or do you want to be more good? Do you want to do good for humanity, or do you want to do bad for humanity? It's an option we all have, but I believe that we just don't talk about it enough to actually make it a norm where people can see that it's better to do good. It's better to choose life than to choose death. There's only two options. I know that's very black and white, But between those two options, you have life and you have death. Which one do you want to choose? Do you want to choose good, to live a good life, or to live an evil life? I encourage you, listeners, I encourage you, do good. It would benefit you, benefit those that are in your life for the greater. So that is today's podcast, talking about opting the norm in our society. So thank you so much, and I hope that you were motivated and inspired in today's podcast to become better humans. We talk to you later. Peace. All right, everyone, you have reached the end of today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining Make Limited Podcast today. I'm so glad that you enjoyed this podcast and you are enjoying this podcast. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to reach out to us, you can go to our Facebook page at Make Limited Podcast, or you can go to our website at makelimitedpodcast.com, and you can reach us there. You can talk to us there. You can send us messages on how Make Lemonade is inspiring you and motivating you to become or be a better human, because we want to hear it. We want to share your story, and we just want to say once again, thank you so much for joining us today at Make Limited Podcast. Again, we're here every Tuesday, so stay tuned and stay ready and be amazing. Talk to you next time. Peace.